Do you want to make money? Then forget about magic spreadsheets, secret formulas, and Instagram gurus selling millionaire mindsets with photos in Dubai. Making money in the real world has much more to do with psychology than with mathematics. And no, this isn't coach talk. This is pure behavioral science. Nobel Prize-winning economist and psychologist Daniel Kahneman has made it very clear. Human beings are not rational when it comes to money. We don't decide, we react, and we usually react badly. Our brains are programmed for survival, not for getting rich. They want security, immediate comfort, and the least possible effort. In other words, your brain prefers pleasure now to a greater gain in the future. It's the famous hyperbolic discounting. It sounds complicated, but in practice it's simple. You know you should invest, but you buy junk on your credit card. And that's where the first punch in the face comes in. Making money requires you to fight against your own brain every day. Behavioral psychology calls this the conflict between the present self and the future self. The present self craves cheap dopamine, food, shopping, entertainment. The future self, on the other hand, wants stability, financial freedom, peace. The problem? The present self always shouts louder, and if you don't create mechanisms to silence it, you'll remain poor, just with sophisticated justifications. Now get this. A classic study by Walter Mischel, the famous marshmallow test, showed that children who were able to delay gratification had more financial and professional success decades later. It's not about intelligence, it's about control, emotional discipline, knowing how to say no now to gain much more later. But nobody teaches you that. School teaches quadratic equations, but doesn't teach impulse control. It teaches medieval history, but doesn't teach how your brain sabotages you financially every day. The result? Emotionally immature adults making huge financial decisions. And there's more. According to the loss aversion theory, also studied by Kahneman and Amos Tversky, losing hurts about twice as much as winning gives pleasure. This creates a bizarre behavior. People avoid investing for fear of losing, but they don't avoid spending impulsively. In other words, you run away from the risk that can make you rich and embrace the risk that makes you poor. Now let's talk about identity, because this is where things get even dirtier. James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, hits a crucial note. You don't build wealth solely through actions, but through identity. If you see yourself as someone bad with money, guess what? You'll act like someone bad with money, always. Your mind needs to be consistent with who you believe yourself to be. So there's no point in wanting to get rich if deep down you see yourself as someone who wasn't born for it. That's not humility. It's disguised self-sabotage. And that's where a concept from cognitive psychology comes in, limiting beliefs. These are ideas that you don't even realize exist, but that control your life. For example, money is hard to earn. Rich people are all thieves. This isn't for people like me. These phrases seem harmless, but they are invisible anchors pulling you down. Now think about it. How are you going to build wealth if you believe that wealth is something bad? It won't work. Another point that nobody likes to talk about, environment. Social psychology has proven 1,000 times that you are shaped by the people around you. If everyone around you spends without thinking, lives on the edge, and thinks it's normal to be broke, you'll think that's normal too. Wealth, in this sense, is almost a contagious behavior, just like poverty. And here's an interesting fact. Studies on social mobility show that one of the biggest differences between people who manage to get rich and those who don't is not talent or luck, it's exposure to different environments, new ideas, new references, new standards. In other words, if you continue living in the same mental cycle with the same people, consuming the same content, you're not just financially trapped due to a lack of money, you're psychologically trapped. And perhaps that's the most uncomfortable part of all, because it means the problem isn't in the system, the government, the economy, at least not exclusively. It largely depends on how you think, decide, and react. And calm down, this is not an attack, it's a warning. Because if the problem were only external, you would have no control at all. But since it's internal, you can change the game. But this requires something that most people shy away from: awareness. Recognize your patterns, question your impulses, be wary of your own decisions. Basically, stop acting on autopilot. And this is exactly where the turning point begins. But before we get to that, you need to understand something even deeper and more uncomfortable. Making money isn't about working harder, it's about thinking differently. And that's where most people get stuck. You don't become poor because you earn little. You become poor because you don't know how to manage what you earn. And that's not an opinion, it's the standard. Thomas Stanley, author of The Millionaire Next Door, analyzed the behavior of thousands of millionaires in the United States and discovered something that destroys the fantasy sold on the internet. Most rich people don't live like rich people. They live below their means, discreet, controlled, almost boring about money. Meanwhile, those who seem rich are usually broke. In psychology, this has a name: symbolic gratification. You don't buy things for what they are, but for what they represent: status, acceptance, power, belonging. In other words, you don't want the car, you want the feeling of being respected. And here's where a concept from sociologist Thorstein Veblen comes in: conspicuous consumption. Basically, spending money to show that you have money. It seems irrational, and it is, but socially it works. The problem? Financially, it destroys you. Now combine that with the brain's reward system. Every time you buy something, your brain releases dopamine, a quick peak of pleasure. But it's fleeting, and like any dopaminergic stimulus, you get used to it. You need more and more and more. Result? You enter an endless cycle of consumption trying to fill a void that no amount of money can solve. While you're chasing sensations, those who understand the game are chasing assets. Here's another important psychological point: the difference between a player and a playmaker. The player wants to make money fast. He looks for shortcuts, miraculous trading, promising crypto, emotional betting disguised as strategy. This activates another cognitive bias, the overconfidence bias. The person thinks they know more than they actually do. Spoiler, you don't. The builder, however, understands something far less exciting and far more effective. Consistency beats intensity. Small, right decisions repeated over years create real wealth. This directly relates to the concept of behavioral compound interest. It's not just money that multiplies, your habits do too. Saving a little today seems irrelevant, but repeating that for years, it completely changes the game. And here's a truth that few people accept: getting rich is boring. It has no glamour, it has no adrenaline, it has no incredible story to tell. It's discipline, repetition, and emotional control, things that the human brain naturally hates. That's why so few people succeed. Now, let's talk about fear, because it also controls your bank account. Evolutionary psychology explains that our brains are programmed to avoid risks. The problem is that they can't distinguish between a lion in the jungle and an investment opportunity. Everything becomes a threat. The result? You freeze. You don't invest. You don't change careers. You don't try anything new. You remain stuck in the insurance trap, which slowly impoverishes you. And here's an important reversal. The biggest risk today isn't taking risks. It's about standing still. Another brutal point: social comparison. According to Leon Festinger, creator of the social comparison theory, we measure our worth based on others. And today, with social media, this has become a constant poison. You see people making money quickly, living well, showing off, and you think you're behind the times. But you're comparing your reality to someone else's edited, manipulated image. And this generates anxiety, impulsiveness, and terrible financial decisions. You don't invest, you react. And reacting emotionally is the quickest way to lose money. Now, to wrap things up, let's get to the most important point of all. Making money isn't an event, it's a system. And systems are based on behavior, not motivation. Motivation is volatile, it fades quickly. Behavioral psychology has already shown this. You can't rely on willpower, you need structure. Controlled environment, automation, clear rules. Want a simple example? Automatic investing every month. No thinking, no deciding, no emotion. This eliminates the biggest enemy of your financial life: yourself. Ultimately, the psychology of making money is almost a paradox. You need to act against your natural instincts to build something that your brain wasn't programmed to understand. And that's exactly why it works, because most people are not willing to do that. Ultimately, money isn't just about how much you earn, it's about who you become in the process.